Namaste, everyone. Michelle Granberg here. Welcome to another episode of Positive Energy, promoting a world of empathy and compassion for every animal and human. On part one of this show, we're spotlighting New Jersey wildlife and their habitats. Cedar Run Wildlife Refuge is a nonprofit dedicated to the preservation of New Jersey wildlife and their habitats through education, conservation, and rehabilitation. Stay with us to meet a few animal friends and learn how to become an ally for wildlife. Positive Energy starts right now. So I'm really excited to welcome Tracy and Jim from Cedar Run Wildlife Refuge. Welcome to Positive Energy, you guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
So Tracy, you're the Director of Development and Communications. What do you do over there?
Correct. So I'm in charge of all the fundraising, the grants, all of the communications for social media, and just spreading the word about our organization, as well as being able to fund all of the amazing work that we do here at Woodford Cedar Run Wildlife Refuge.
Love that. And Jim, you're the after-school coordinator and educator. What do you do?
Yes, so we just this past year, started our after-school program. So we go out into certain schools that are around our area and have them for an hour, hour and a half or so after the regular school day, get them bring some animals, like our friend here we'll talk about in a moment, some other ones, get them kind of first-hand experience a lot of nature that should be right around their area that maybe they haven't experienced before, something that they wouldn't necessarily get in their normal school day. Give them a little something extra, a little taste of Cedar Run, bring it out to them.
Oh my gosh, so much fun. Great. And so, Tracy, what's the mission of your organization and how long you've been around and what services do you offer?
So Woodford Cedar Run Wildlife Refuge is in Medford. We are a three-part mission, so we focus on environmental education, habitat rehabilitation, and or habitat preservation and wildlife rehabilitation. So we do have a nature center that is open 7 days a week that the public can come and visit. We have reptiles, we have walking trails, we have wildlife enclosures, so where you can actually meet one of our wildlife enclosure or wildlife animals, Phoebe, as well as we have all sorts of different New Jersey native wildlife, bald eagles, we have a white-tailed deer, and these are all non-releasable wildlife.
Right.
So we have a wildlife hospital on our premises that we take in over 6,300 animals every single year to rehab to release them back into the wild. So we're a community resource that you can call if you have any questions about our native wildlife and cohabitate with them, as well as if you do find a wildlife animal like a skunk or an owl or a snake or a turtle and beyond, what to do with them if they were injured or truly orphaned. So we're a community resource for that. We've been around since 1951, and we have 171 acres that have been preserved by the Green Acres Grant in 1997. So we also have education programs. So we go to schools, they can come to us for field trips. And Jim is our after-school coordinator, like you said. So kids can learn about nature and why it's so important to protect and preserve our native wildlife and habitats.
I love it. So Phoebe is with us, very lively. She's snacking.
Well,
so tell us a little bit. So Jim, tell us a little bit about Phoebe. What would you like our audience to know? What's her story also?
Yeah, so this is our little Phoebe Mouffet. She is an eastern striped skunk, as you can see on her big stripe there running down her back. Each skunk you see is going to have a slightly different pattern. Some are going to be more dark, some are going to be more light, but they all have that as a warning sign. They, unlike most animals which have more of a camouflage of trying to hide, these ones have this bright stripe, so animals at night will see that and go, maybe I shouldn't go near this animal, because usually they do it once and they learn quickly, don't go near that animal again.
Yeah.
They very famously have their spray that they can spray sometimes up to about 20 feet or so, and besides smelling really bad, but also if it gets in your eyes, can temporarily blind some of the predators that might go after her. This gives her enough time to kind of scoot away. Phoebe, the reason we have her is, unfortunately, Phoebe was actually tried to be kept as someone's pet. And when they do that in certain areas, you can have certain permits You can't just go out into the wild and just grab a skunk to have as a pet.
not legal, right?
Very illegal.
Very
Especially in New Jersey, is very strict on their wildlife laws on that.
Good.
With Phoebe, someone had her as a pet. They call it a domesticated skunk, but they're not really domesticated.
Right.
But they basically do a surgery that removes the scent gland, so she can't spray anymore. However, she does not know she can't spray. So when she was only a few months old, and the family decided, oh, this does not make a good pet, because skunks are nocturnal, so they're going to be awake all night while you're trying to sleep. You can kind of see she has some big claws on here. She's trying to dig into my hand here. That's why I have the gloves on. Have a little bit of food tucked in here, kind of keep her attention while she's moving around and wiggling here. But if you have something underneath your floor or your carpet, that's not going to hold up well against these claws.
No.
Your furniture, your walls. She was also chasing the family's dogs all night, and she has sharp little teeth. So they decided, this is not an animal I should have in my house. But
There's
because
a reason for that, yeah.
There's absolutely a reason. And since she was descented, so she can't spray, can't defend herself,
Right.
and raised by people, she can't be put out in the wild. So luckily, she got brought over to us, and she's been living with us. I think she came in about 2018 or so.
How old is she, do you
So
think?
she's about 4 years old.
Okay, so she's
Right
a
about there.
permanent
Almost 5,
resident.
since we're almost 2023 now. Yeah, so since she can't defend herself, she's going to be with us for the rest of her life. She has a nice little area there. She was trained to be one of our education animals, to be able to come out on programs like this. She comes out to the schools, comes out to programs, lets people see them up a little bit closer, because normally you don't want to get this close to a skunk. That they're very capable of telling you to back up a little bit. So
she's used to being handled to some degree, but we want to remind people she's a wild animal meant to be in the wild, even though she's not able to be. We want to really remember that.
absolutely. So I've known her for about 3 years now, and even I still have to wear these big gloves. She's got those claws. She has those teeth. She may not, necessarily be angry per se, but she is still a wild animal.
Yeah.
Instincts happen, and she can nip a little bit, scratch something. As a skunk, they are a potential carrier of rabies. So anyone who handles any of our rabies vector species that we call them, they have to have some vaccinations against rabies, just to make sure both animals and us can stay protected against them.
So what should people do if they come across a skunk, both just a healthy skunk, just sort of in their neighborhood, in their yard, and what if there's an injured skunk? What do you want to let people know?
So the best way to handle any wildlife is really to leave them alone and to call a licensed wildlife rehabilitation center. So Cedar Run is one of those, but depending on the area, we always suggest call Cedar Run first, and we'll give you the best advice. Is it something that should be handled to bring into a wildlife rehabilitation center as if they are hurt or injured, or if that is perfectly fine, normal behavior, and to leave them alone. So we are a community resource for any questions when it comes to wildlife. But do not handle, call a wildlife rehabilitator.
Do you find yourself telling people a lot? Just
Yes. Yes. So
you called us, but here's our expert advice.
Yes.
Just leave the animal alone.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So especially with COVID and a lot more people were at home, they were seeing a lot more wildlife than they ever have seen because they were home and they were looking out the windows. They were noticing things.
more.
Yeah. So is it normal for a fawn to be kind of tucked away by a tree? Yes. Leave that fawn alone. Mom tucks them away, comes back 2 times a day at dawn and dusk. But yes, that's perfectly normal. So we're happy to answer those calls. We actually we get over 14,000 phone calls from this year alone, from January up until
wow, 14,000 in the past year.
14,000 for just the wildlife hospital. So
and how many of those do you wind up actually having them come in?
Good question.
Just a small amount or a large amount?
It could be a number of different factors. It could be the fact that somebody is saying, oh my gosh, there is a wildlife in need of help, I'm coming to you, or we field those questions. So a good number of those we actually do feel like we have given the best advice, especially from our experts. We do have 3 wildlife rehabilitation team members, wildlife rehabilitators that are state and federally licensed. So we are the experts in the field, so don't hesitate to call us if you do have any questions. And what to do with that wildlife that may be hurt or needing some attention and
So
care.
you're a great resource for that. And we're going to put your
Yeah.
website,
Perfect.
here on the screen for people so they can reach out to you. But Jim, we've learned a little bit already about Phoebe as a beautiful skunk she is. Is there like maybe one really interesting fact you'd like to share, or maybe one misconception that people have?
Absolutely. So I'd go start with the biggest misconception. Is a lot of people, they'll see a skunk and get really scared and think it's going to chase them and spray them. And not the case. They don't want to spray you. That spray is the last line of defense. They are going to, one, just try to run away. That's just the easiest option for them. If they can't run away, they feel trapped or you're coming up a little bit too close for it, they will warn you. They'll make some little noises, maybe make some little grunting sounds. They will also stomp their feet. It's kind of cute, but it's a warning. Back up. You are way too close.
Right.
This is your last warning, because after that, they turn around, they lift up that tail, and like I said, they can spray about 20 feet or so, and very often they actually aim towards the face, towards the eyes, because that will definitely convince you to go away. So if they spray you, they have enough spray for maybe 1 or 2 sprays, and then they have to wait about 10 days to build that up.
Wow, that's fascinating.
So after they spray like 1 or 2 times, they're going to be defenseless for a little bit over a week.
Wow.
So they don't want to spray you.
Right.
They're going to try to hold that until they really
right,
consider
like money.
themselves.
They're holding on
Yep.
to it like
That
gold.
last minute, like, this is all I got left.
This is all I get.
Give it a shot. So if you get sprayed by a skunk, you are a little bit too close for it. And that's kind of on you, not them. They're trying to get away.
Can they smell their own spray? I mean, because you said they have a great sense of smell.
So-
Obviously doesn't bother them.
Yeah, so you can definitely see her little nose kind of sniffing in there.
I ask questions like a kindergartner would ask, I think.
Totally
Yeah,
good.
I
No
was a
worries.
kindergartner at heart.
That's all good. So with little Phoebe here, you will see her little nose going in the air. With them being nocturnal out there at the night, their eyesight is not the best. They can still see, definitely. But you can see her little nose going right there a little bit, sniffing around. They really rely on their nose. So they have a great sense of smell, but yeah, their smell to them doesn't really bother them too much. Just kind
Pretty
of
neutral.
Pretty just average, kind of like their own natural body odor, you can say. Even though she is descented,
That's a
she
good-
does have a little odor to her, naturally. But yeah, she just can't spray it or anything. I would say my favorite aspect of them
Yes.
with these skunks is skunks and some of their close related relatives are actually pretty much immune to venomous snake bites.
No kidding.
So they can actually get bit by, let's say, like a rattlesnake that we have here in New Jersey. And she may not feel great for a couple hours, but usually doesn't kill them or anything. They're able to kind of shake it off. And so they're one of the predators of some of those venomous snakes.
Wow.
So a couple different kinds of skunks, weasels, anybody in that kind of mustelid family has some pretty good defenses against things that might potentially hurt other animals.
That's her superpower.
Absolutely.
So what family do you say she belongs to?
Mustelid.
How come I haven't heard? That's
Usually not the common thing. Usually just think
what
of like,
other animals are in that same family?
so like if you think of like the ferrets or anything like that,
of course.
weasel kind of things, anything with that really small, low body to the ground. You see her face is very small, kind of pointed, because she actually is really good with those big claws, can actually dig underground really, really well. And she'll also use those claws to dig up ant nests and wasp nests and everything, and just go to town. So anything with that kind of small, low kind of body, very good predator, but she's also an omnivore, so she eats a little bit of everything.
Do they like to, if they can, do they like to stay with their family? Or do they tend to be more loners?
So as they're growing up, the young ones will kind of stay with mom for a little bit as she kind of teaches them, this is what you got to do, this is where you can find food, this is what you should avoid, find some safe places to go. But then they kind of separate each other out. If there's an area with a lot of food and habitat, you might see some pretty close to each other. But usually they're usually pretty much on their own.
I can see why.
Oh, she got that quick. She said, I saw that piece of apple. You can see her little chomping teeth there.
Oh my goodness.
So I guess just to sort of summarize a little bit about skunks, anything else you want to share, either of you? So
I would say, a lot of people are scared of them, but they definitely are an important part of our food web, of our ecology here in New Jersey and pretty much everywhere else. These striped skunks are found all over the place. But even their relatives, they're all important. Just give them their space. They'll give you your space. They want nothing to do with you.
Right.
We do recommend people, as cute as they are, don't go try to pick them up. Don't try to pet them. You don't need to feed them, I promise you. They're perfectly capable of finding food on their own. And just living their life. View them from afar. That's kind of the best.
Appreciate them from
Yes.
afar.
Absolutely.
Mhm. Or have us come out and see Phoebe. You can see one up close without getting too
Are
worried
they
about it.
endangered at all? Because I don't see many anymore.
Not here in New Jersey. No, these guys
Okay.
are pretty good. Like I said, just mostly nocturnal, so they're not going to be awake when you're awake. Sometimes you see them in the day, but usually they're out when we're asleep, and they've gotten usually pretty good at avoiding humans because they've learned humans tend to not treat them too well, or they're around humans too often, they disappear. So they've learned to stay away, but sometimes people have them kind of nest under their porch in the winter because they kind of don't quite hibernate, but cool down a little bit. Yeah. You.
Well, thank you for bringing her. She's so absolutely beautiful.
Absolutely.
And you're doing such important work. But we're going to stop and bring in another furry friend or shelled friend.
Shelled friend. Yes.
Okay, so now Positive Energy is welcoming Tommy. Hi, Tommy.
He says hello.
He's an eastern box turtle. So, Jim, tell us about Tommy, how he came to you, and a little bit about turtles.
Yeah, absolutely. So many people may see some pictures of these box turtles, or if they're really lucky, they may see them kind of crawling across the road, and you can kind of help give them a little hand. They're very noticeable. They have these bright orange and black kind of shells and the patterns, both on the shell and also down on their skin and their legs and everything. Tommy came to us quite a while ago. He got brought into our wildlife hospital, and as we're checking him out, as we do with every animal that comes to our wildlife hospital, we noticed he had some special things that made him a little bit different. On his shell here, he has some spots of his shell that kind of the colors don't come through, the scales don't grow properly, the bone kind of sticks up above where it should be, got some kind of misshapen there, and unlike most box turtles that can completely enclose inside their shell, he can't. He can tuck inside a little bit, but he can't close it up, which is kind of how box turtles get their name.
That was a birth deformity or that was an injury?
Well,
Don't know.
most likely what we have kind of seen is the most likely cause for that is that somebody actually tried to keep him as a pet, and they don't necessarily provide the right food for them, and they don't get the right nutrients, and he developed something called metabolic bone disease, where the shell and the bones don't grow properly. So now his shell doesn't quite close where it should. He's got the little bit of extra bit poking up here, but they didn't bring him in because of that. Somebody just found him in the wild, and what you can't see, if I turn around, he's actually missing a little bit of the foot back here. So he was most likely attacked either by a dog or a fox or a coyote or something out there. Maybe they realized, oh, I can't take care of this, and it's a turtle, just go release it out into the woods, because box turtles are found in the woods. But with him being raised by people and not having the right defenses, he had a little bit of a rough time there. But luckily got brought to us.
Lucky boy.
Lucky boy.
Lucky boy. He's going to live
too much ended there.
His best life now.
Oh, he's living the high life. He's one of the staff and public favorites there.
Yes, so he is, he's actually symbolically adoptable too, where anybody can adopt either Tommy, Phoebe, or any of our other wildlife, and help provide food, medication, and the cost of care along with our other animals in our wildlife hospital. So what you can do is you can go to cedarrun.org. You'll get a color photo of Tommy or the respective wildlife, and a little bit about his story and about the species. And there's so many other options on our website for ways to
support your work, to give, to keep Tommy in food and shelter at all times.
Yeah. So he's one of a number of animals that we do have in our wildlife that are education animals. So they go to schools, they go to public programming, they go and they visit, places like this to be able to talk to the public about their species and why it's so important not to keep wildlife as pets. Because obviously he does not have the proper diet to be able to defend himself. And, as a pet, like Jim said, you can't just put them out in the wild. Unfortunately, a lot of people do find these animals that either are injured or orphaned. And rather than calling, a wildlife rehabilitation center or a wildlife rehabber, they don't know what to do with it. So then they keep them and then say, oh gosh, I have a raccoon now. What do I do? Please don't keep it. Please call a wildlife rehabilitator. And we are the experts in that field to be able to make sure that they remain wild. But box turtles are really interesting because, they not only, a lot of people actually say, oh, I don't see them, a lot anymore, just crossing the road or something like that, but not as much as, when we were kids. And that's because their habitats are really deplenished, because that is the best place. That's, I guess, the most desirable place to start construction. It's up dry land of the pinelands. So we're actually removing a lot of their habitats because of construction. So they're trying to cross the streets to other areas that, unfortunately, they can't survive crossing the road and all of that stuff. So please don't take them home. Please don't use them as a pet. Please.
Would
please
you
keep
encourage
wildlife
people to
wild.
help them across the road, though, going in the same direction?
In the same direction, yes.
So they're doing that for a reason. There's some threat behind them that they're escaping from, and so we want people to do that?
Could be escaping from a threat. Also, very often the females are going to find somewhere to lay their eggs. And we have just built our roads across where they want to go. And yeah, so if you're going this way and you see the turtle crossing the road this way, safely for you, make sure you're able to get out and safely don't want you getting hit by a car or anything. But you can help them out, pick them up. If you pick up a wild turtle, it's probably not going to stay out like Tommy is. Like, he's been with us for over 30 years. So he's very used to being handled. A wild one's going to kind of close all up. You're not going to be able to see them at all. They're just going to look like a big rock here. Pick them up, just put them whatever way they were facing, because if you put them back over here, as soon as you drive away, they're just going to go, no, I want to go that way. That's where I need to go, either find food, get away from something, or
Because
go
they
lay
have
my eggs.
instinct.
Mhm.
They have instincts.
And it's very hard to
smart.
get over that.
Yeah. So take them by the back, because they might snap. So not necessarily.
Maybe. These guys are more so just going to tuck inside their shell. If it's a big snapping turtle, you don't want to hold one like this, big snapping turtle. These guys are pretty much going to close up. If they don't close up, or if something is kind of going for you, kind of go on the back here a little bit. Main thing is you don't want to just grab on the top shell and lift up.
Yeah.
Because this shell is part of their skeleton. It's not like a hermit crab, which can climb in and out. We do have
A lot of
the
people
shell over
think
here.
that
Absolutely.
they don't think they're in their. They are their shell.
They are their shell.
Yeah.
It's not a little home they move in and out of. They carry it with them. On the inside, you actually see a little bit of their spine. It runs on the inner top here. On the top, you can see the bumps. On the inside here, you can see a little bit of that spine there. So if you pick it up, you're kind of just pulling on some bone there. It's not really the most comfortable. It can hurt them. So get a little bit kind of on top and bottom there. And they're usually pretty good about letting you get them into a safe spot. If you're a little bit worried, you can always get some gloves, or if you have some kind of box or something, just kind of shush them along a little bit.
Yeah, I've done that myself a couple of times.
Thank
So
you.
I know that Tommy's not releasable, but say a little bit about what the releasing process is like. When you do go back out, how do you decide where to release them? How do you get them used to it? What's the process like?
Sure. So our wildlife hospital team, as soon as they are cleared, and depending on the species, we have over 140 different types of species in New Jersey that we treat in our wildlife hospital. And we see over 6,300 New Jersey native wildlife every single year.
That's an astronomical. That number is flooring me.
It's a lot.
It truly is.
I think it was
A lot of it's in the summertime is when most of them come
We
in.
see a lot of babies in baby season. So if you're mowing your lawn and you find a nest of bunnies that unfortunately get hit by a lawnmower, just double check to make sure that you don't have any bunny spots in your yard before that. But definitely in the springtime, during baby season, after a storm, and all sorts of different things. But a lot of it is human interaction, right? So I either found a baby or an animal in need and I kept it. Please don't keep it. But no food, water. We always say no food or water. Keep it in a dark spot until you're able to bring or call a wildlife rehabilitator to give the best advice. Because if, let's say, there was a wing injury, just like for a person, if you got hit by a car and you broke your leg, you want medical attention right away. You don't want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich just shoved in your face from a giant, right? So we say the same thing, just please be careful. And make sure to call a wildlife rehabilitator in your area. And that's why Cedar Run is so important as a community resource.
I will say one important thing with box turtles, if we have to release them, box turtles don't have a wide range of their habitat. They pretty much only stay within, I've heard anything, some people say like 1 football field their entire life. Some people say like 1 square mile or 2 square miles. It's really not that big. I mean, it's kind of big when you only grow this big, but comparatively, it's not a huge area. So people will sometimes think they're going to help them out and pick them up and move them down the road a little bit, and they're going to feel lost. So for a lot of animals, especially like our box turtles, when we have to release them, we try to get as close as possible to where they were from. So when you come in to drop off an injured or some kind of animal, if it needs a little bit of help, there's a little form you fill out that tells us where you found it, where it's from, so we can try to see whether that's a safe spot for them to go back to if we do get to the point where they are able to be released.
as well as birds of prey too. So a lot of it is territorial. So a red-tailed hawk, if it was an adult and it did get injured by a car or an impact injury, we try to make sure that they're within that range of field where their scope is.
It makes us realize there's so much to know. Yes. And I'm sure even for you guys, you don't know everything. You're still learning.
Yes.
You learned from the animals themselves. So we only have a minute or so, but how can people get involved or support you and your work through donations, volunteering, etc.?
Yeah, so Cedar Run is not government or federally funded, so donations are huge for us to be able to continue the work that we do. Volunteer. If you have some time, we always are looking for volunteers. They're the lifeblood. We are a small but mighty team, and you can volunteer in our hospital. You can volunteer at our nature center, events, support us at events. Support us by a wish list. So we have an Amazon wish list of much needed items. Pick up some paper towel rolls, some different things like that. Check out cedarrun.org on different ways to give, and we really appreciate all of what the public is able to do to help us continue our mission.
Well, I personally will do anything for the animals, and so we're going to do a part 2 to this show and bring on some more wonderful friends. But Jim, any final words?
Just make sure you keep an eye out for the animals out there, whether they're, furry, scaly, feathered, whatever they are. We got to share this big old world with them. Just make sure we're giving them their proper place and making sure we give them the ability to see from afar. I mean, I'm always a big fan of animals, but not always necessary to get close.
100%. All right, let's respect each other's space. Let's live in harmony. We are all earthlings. Thank you both so much for being
so
here.
much.
Thanks for all that you've shared. Thanks for the work you're doing. Thank you, Tommy. We're wrapping up another enlightening show. What can you do to show compassion for wild animals, companion animals, and farm animals? First, do no harm through your everyday actions. Second, help them when possible. And third, otherwise, leave them alone. Thank you for watching. Check out MichelleGranberg.com, go vegan, and join me next time on Positive Energy.